producers. Thank you. Hi. Can everybody hear me okay? I must admit, I've never been to Leeds before, so it was quite a journey this morning. And you guys are so much colder up here than where I live in Milton Keynes. But yeah, I'm Sarah. I'm the training team leader for an organisation called Harmless. I deliver training around all the really uncomfortable big topics that are a bit like Voldemort, he who should not be named, or suicide. I have quite a loud voice, so hopefully we'll bear through any technical difficulties. I think it's really inspiring to see so many wonderful people here today, kind of backing up such an important topic, which is mental health, particularly for our children and young people, our future generation. And so what I'm going to talk to you today is an emotive topic, so please do look after yourselves. I'll be speaking to you today about self-harm around children and young people, and a little bit about our service. So I thought I'd begin by explaining what self-harm is. It's a word that we hear an awful lot about. It's a coping strategy, a behaviour that really looks at being able to cope or release or deal with emotional distress. So the best way I can kind of visualise this for you is to think back to a day that you've had that's been really, really stressful. Hopefully that's not so far this week. And I'd like you to imagine that you get home and you stub your toe. I can guarantee in the moment that you've stubbed your toe, you are thinking of nothing else other than your stubbed toe, maybe with a few choice words. That's like a really small idea of what self-harm is like, that somebody is in so much emotional pain and distress that interrupting that, releasing it, distracting from it, is helping to cope or helping to deal with that. As you may be aware, self-harm started to feature in the kind of media far more recently. We've seen sort of from a GP practice study that between sort of 2011 and 2014, that self-harm rose by about 68% for women. There was about a fifth of 14-year-old girls who self-harm, and there's a lot around young people and particularly adolescent teenage girls in relation to self-harm. So this is a prevalent issue. It's an issue that we need to be addressing. And actually, it's one that holds an awful lot of stigma. So, for example, if I speak about a young teenage girl cutting her arms, most people will accept and nod in agreement that that is self-harm. However, the one that we tend to miss is things like a young boy coming out of an exam and punching a wall. That will normally be put down to aggressive or challenging behaviour. But actually that too is a form of self-harm. And there's a lot of data that we're missing in terms of that because of the association with self-harm being quite a feminine topic, so a lot of men don't come forward. And actually in Leeds what was found is between, I think, the ages of 15 to 24 that the self-harm rates for men is actually substantially higher than other areas in the country. So this is something that affects us all. It doesn't discriminate. In fact, in our service, the youngest person we've seen is 7 and the oldest person is 77. And we take anywhere in between and up and below any of those age ranges. So for us, it's kind of really important, I suppose, that what we wanted to be able to do is to reduce the stigma, to raise awareness, and to put in place support that really helps people to reach their potential and their dreams. So Harmless launched in 2007. We're a non-profit organisation. We are based in Nottingham, and we provide a whole range of services. So we provide free therapeutic support for up to 2 years. That's really looks very different depending on what kind of goes on. So for example, it could be face-to-face support, it may be email, it may be online Skype appointments, it may be information. Whatever the case is, we're there to help. We have a website with lots of information and leaflets that people can download, print, give out, hand out, whatever's there. And we don't just look at the person in distress, we look at the friends, the families, the colleagues, anybody else who's going to be impacted. With that, we also have a suicide prevention organisation called the Tomorrow Project, and that looks around suicide crisis and suicide bereavement. But really, our aim is to save lives. It's to be able to let people know that life can and does get better with the right support. We also do training, as I said, so I go around the entire country delivering training to everybody and anybody, because we know with this topic that most people are likely to disclose to somebody with no specific training. I.e., like most things in life, you probably talk to a friend or a family member before you get to a GP, a psychologist. So we've created accredited bespoke packages for everybody in that age. And then we go around the whole country. I'm waiting for my one to Barbados, so if anybody has any contacts, come find me. But the aim here is that we want people to feel more comfortable and well equipped with this topic. I was one of those 14-year-old girls. When I was 14, things really changed for me. I was a very confident, maybe slightly bossy child. I like to think confident. But things around the age of 14 did change. I became very, very anxious. We spoke a lot, thank you so much for speaking out about generalised anxiety disorder, because that's something I suffer with. And it's a cruel condition. It really is. And I think during my adolescence, it very much manifested. I had a lot of opportunities in life that others didn't quite get. So, for example, I went to private school. I was very aware that this was an opportunity that not everybody gets in life. And I wanted to make the most of it. And because I wasn't that naturally A-star sort of led student, I felt like I wasn't making the best of things and I was disappointing people. It led to an awful lot of perfectionism. It led to an awful fear of failure. Absolutely, that was a word that I hated as a kid. And for me, it wasn't about being attention-seeking. It wasn't about being manipulative. It wasn't about setting a trend. It was a big private problem for me. In fact, it takes between 5 to 10 years for somebody to disclose self-harm. So actually, we're really missing the boat with helping people a lot of the time. And for me, it was a way of surviving, a way of coping. And it wasn't until I was in my sort of early 20s that I really began to start sort of looking at myself in a bit more detail. And I was actually going to the GP for a lot of physical health problems. And it was only then that my GP sort of said, so, do you have a lot of emotional stuff going on? And I remember laughing at her, saying, well, don't we all? Isn't that just stuff that we go through? But she persevered with me, and it was actually with her support that I got help. And I stand here today as somebody who is not a self-harmer. I didn't introduce myself to you as a self-harmer. I introduced myself as Sarah. And I think that's really important, that people know that you can go through these things and you can come out the other side. What I did want to leave you with was a quote from one of our service users. And I hope that for me, really, this is about our commitment to driving change and promoting hope. And this 19-year-old girl said, I can see a great change in the way I used to feel and how I feel now after I started coming here. I feel much more positive about myself and I'm able to have a life instead of just existing. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have room for one question? Have we got anyone? Or should we see them after? Sarah will be hanging around so we can ask after. Yes, of course.
Hey, so we have lots of people emailing saying they've got kids with autism spectrum disorder and that one of the things that plays out a lot is that they self-harm. Do you get a lot of people coming to you saying that they're in that sort of situation and you're having to advise them not only on self-harm but with autism, that the two things are connected?
Yeah, definitely. I think, something like self-harm, it doesn't discriminate those with learning disabilities. It's something like the autistic spectrum. In fact, my background's in education, so I used to teach in special educational needs, and I've supported a lot of kids with autism who suffer with self-harm. It's a very sensory thing for some people, and I think it's about being able to work through that. And there's a lot of strategies out there. There is a lot out there that goes out about what we should do, what we shouldn't do, but it's about getting across the evidence-based stuff and making sure it's the kind of the right things, which is why we sit on a lot of the strategy boards and like the all parliamentary groups and stuff, to be able to get that down into the training, so that it's helping exactly those sorts of people and families and those sorts of things.
Wonderful, thank you so much. Another round of applause, please.